In an era where food shortages are no longer what if, but when being prepared isn't paranoia, it's survival. Prices are skyrocketing, crops are failing, and global supply chains are breaking faster than anyone expected. But there's one community that's not panicking: the Amish. For centuries, the Amish have thrived through wars, depressions, and disasters, living completely self sufficient lives while the rest of the world relies on grocery stores and power grids. Their food preservation methods are simple, natural, and proven to keep food edible for years. And today, we're uncovering 15 Amish foods you should start stockpiling now, before the next food shortage hits. Because when shelves go empty, these are the foods that could keep your family fed. 1. Sweet sorghum. Sorghum molasses. Ever wondered how the Amish managed to sweeten their food without ever relying on store-bought sugar? Their secret lies in a golden syrup called sorghum molasses, a thick, rich sweetener made from a humble grass that thrives even when the weather turns harsh. Unlike modern crops that demand fertilizers and perfect rain patterns, sorghum is incredibly drought-resistant. It grows strong where others fail, making it one of the most dependable staples in any Amish food stockpile. When the stalks are pressed, they release a sweet juice that's slowly boiled down into molasses. This syrup isn't just tasty. It's packed with minerals like iron, calcium, and potassium, giving you calories and nutrition when food options get thin. And here's the genius part: sorghum molasses can last for years when stored properly in sealed jars, with no need for refrigeration. In times of crisis, think food shortages in 2025, power outages, or supply chain collapse. This single ingredient can replace sugar, honey, or even maple syrup. The Amish use it for baking, glazing meats, or stirring into warm water as an instant energy drink. It's a small detail, but one that shows how deeply they've mastered long-term food storage. While most people panic when the sugar aisles go empty, the Amish simply walk to their shelves, unscrew a jar of molasses, and carry on. But sweeteners alone won't fill your stomach. Next, let's talk about the dense staples that truly keep you alive. 2. Dried beans and heirloom legumes. Ever wondered why the Amish never worry about running out of protein, even when the world outside panics over empty shelves? Their secret lies in something humble but powerful: dried beans and heirloom legumes. These aren't the cheap, flavorless beans you grab from a supermarket aisle. The Amish have spent generations growing heritage varieties, the kind that survived before industrial farming took over. Each harvest, they save seeds from the strongest plants, ensuring the next crop is just as hardy, flavorful, and nutrient-rich. When the beans are fully dried, they're sealed away in glass jars or thick Mylar bags, protected from air, moisture, and pests. Stored like this, they can last not just months, but years. And unlike most modern processed foods, dried beans don't rely on electricity or refrigeration, just patience and knowledge. In a world where supply chains are breaking and food prices are spiraling in 2025, that kind of simplicity is power. But beyond the science, there's a quiet wisdom here. Dried beans become a bridge between lean seasons and good ones, a reliable source of protein when meat is scarce or unaffordable. In Amish homes, they're turned into hearty stews, baked dishes, and soups that can feed an entire family with just a handful of ingredients. It's a reminder that survival doesn't always come from high-tech gear. Sometimes it's from something as small as a bean. But while beans can fill your stomach, they can't fuel your body forever. Next, let's talk about something every prepper overlooks: fats. 3. Rendered lard, schmaltz, and animal fat. Here's something most modern preppers forget: fats are fuel for survival. You can store all the beans, rice, and grains you want, but without fat, your body starts to break down. The Amish understand this better than anyone. They don't rely on fancy oils from a store shelf that expire in a year. Instead, they render their own animal fats, lard from pigs, schmaltz from chickens, the same way their great-grandparents did long before refrigeration was common. Rendering is simple, but brilliant. The fat is slowly heated until it turns liquid, then strained and cooled into a clean, shelf-stable block of pure energy. Once sealed in glass jars or metal tins, it can last for months, even years, without going bad, especially if kept in a cool, dark place. No chemicals, no preservatives, just nature's original survival food. And here's where it gets interesting. Lard isn't just for frying. It's used in baking, cooking, and even as a substitute for butter when dairy runs out. During the Great Depression, families who had jars of lard were often the ones who didn't go hungry. Today, with rising food prices and warnings of a food shortage in 2025, that same wisdom applies. For the Amish, fat means freedom, energy that doesn't depend on grocery deliveries or fragile power grids. But while fat gives you the calories to survive, you'll also need something that keeps your food fresh when fridges fail. Next, let's move to an old world secret: fermentation and pickling. 4. Pickles and fermented vegetables. Here's something fascinating. The Amish have been keeping vegetables fresh without a single refrigerator for generations. No power, no chemicals, no modern preservatives, just salt, patience, and time. The secret? Fermentation. When most people think of pickles, they picture store-bought jars loaded with vinegar and additives. But the Amish do it differently. They use natural fermentation, a process where good bacteria convert sugars into lactic acid, creating a natural preservative that keeps food safe for months or even years. It's the same ancient method used before refrigeration even existed. Cucumbers, cabbage, carrots, and even green beans can all be transformed this way into crisp, tangy, nutrient-packed food that doesn't spoil easily. In every Amish kitchen, there's usually a row of mason jars quietly bubbling away, full of bright colors and a smell that's unmistakably alive. That's because these foods don't just stay edible, they get better. They develop probiotics, the kind of good bacteria that help your gut stay strong when stress, poor nutrition, or sickness hit. Think of it as medicine hidden inside your food storage. Now, imagine this. A modern grocery store goes empty for weeks during a 2025 supply chain crisis. Your fridge stops working, fresh produce wilts in days, but those Amish-style pickled vegetables, they're still sitting there, safe, full of flavor, and rich with nutrients. You could live off them long after your perishables are gone. Fermentation doesn't just preserve food, it preserves independence. It's quiet rebellion against a world addicted to instant, fragile systems. When you master this, you're not just saving vegetables, you're saving security. Because in a future where electricity can vanish overnight, the ones who know how to ferment will still have food, health, and peace of mind, but flavor and freshness are only part of the equation. You'll still need something that delivers long-lasting protein when times get tough. That's where the next Amish secret comes in: smoked and salted meats. 5. Smoked and salted meats. Here's a sobering thought. What would you do if the power went out for months and your freezer full of meat started to rot? Most people would panic. But not the Amish. For generations, they've preserved meat without a single watt of electricity, using nothing but salt, smoke, and skill. Smoked and salted meats are one of the oldest survival techniques known to humanity, and the Amish have perfected the craft. After slaughtering, they rub the meat with layers of coarse salt, drawing out moisture and preventing bacteria from growing. Then they hang it in cool, dry air or inside a smokehouse, where slow-burning hardwood infuses it with flavor and protection. The result? Meat that can last months, even a year or more without refrigeration, something unheard of in most modern homes. But this isn't just about preservation, it's about control. When the rest of the world depends on frozen chicken and factory-packed bacon, the Amish quietly hang their own hams in the cellar, untouched by price hikes or supply chain chaos. In 2025, with food shortages and inflation creeping higher, that kind of independence is priceless, and there's something deeply comforting about it. Slicing into smoked beef or cured pork that your own hands prepared, knowing it'll nourish your family no matter what happens outside. It's real food, full of calories, protein, and hard-earned peace of mind. The Amish know something we've forgotten. Survival isn't about panic buying, it's about preparation. It's about turning simple skills into security. So the next time you see empty shelves, remember this. A little salt, a little smoke, and a lot of wisdom can keep you fed when the world goes dark. But meat alone won't keep you going. You'll need something that brings comfort, richness, and strength even when supplies vanish. Next, let's talk about the Amish secret to long-lasting dairy and milk preservation. 6. Raw milk powder, clabbered milk, and aged cheese. Have you ever wondered how the Amish keep enjoying dairy even when there's no fridge in sight? While most of us rely on store-bought milk that spoils in days, the Amish have mastered the art of stretching milk's life for months, even years. They've turned dairy preservation into both a science and a tradition using techniques passed down through generations. It starts with simplicity. Fresh milk from the cow is either clabbered, left to naturally ferment into a thick yogurt-like form, or transformed into butter, cheese, and cream. Nothing is wasted, Clabbered milk may sound old-fashioned, but it's full of probiotics and healthy fats, perfect for baking or mixing into recipes. Then there's aged cheese, dense, durable, and rich in calories. Stored properly in waxed rounds or cool cellars, these cheeses can last a year or more, getting sharper and more flavorful with time. And for true long-term storage, the Amish often dehydrate milk into a powder form, what we now call raw milk powder. It's lightweight, shelf-stable, and instantly turns into usable milk with a bit of water. No fridge, no expiration panic, no problem. In a grid-down or supply crisis, that's survival gold. Think about it, when store shelves are stripped bare and fresh milk costs double, as forecasts warn could happen during the 2025 food shortage, having jars of your own preserved dairy isn't just convenient, it's power. The Amish have proven that preservation isn't about hoarding, it's about transforming. They turn perishables into permanence. And that mindset, resourceful, steady, self-reliant, is exactly what modern preppers need today. Because in a true survival scenario, it's not technology that saves you, it's knowledge. But milk and cheese are just one piece of the puzzle. Next, let's look at what truly keeps the Amish fed year-round. Their stockpiles of hard, whole grains like wheat, rye, and oats. 7. Hard whole grains, fawn, wheat, rice, and oats. Ever wondered why the Amish never run out of bread, even during long winters or poor harvests? It's because they don't depend on store-bought flour. They store the grain itself. Hard whole grains like wheat, rye, and oats are the backbone of the Amish pantry, and for good reason. They've learned something that most modern people overlook. Flour spoils quickly, but whole grains can last for decades if properly stored. You'll find sacks of golden wheat or jars filled with rye berries tucked away in Amish basements and cellars. These grains are kept dry, sealed tight, and protected from light, often in old-fashioned crocks or modern Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. In that state, they can remain fresh for 20, even 30 years, and when the time comes, they simply grind what they need into flour using hand mills. That means the bread they bake today is as nutritious and fresh as the grain they harvested years ago. Hard grains aren't just about baking, though. They're survival insurance, dense in calories, rich in fiber, and packed with nutrients that sustain energy and strength. During food shortages or inflation spikes like those predicted for 2025, a stockpile of whole grains isn't just smart. It's life-saving. It's humbling, really. While most of us worry about expiration dates and freezer burn, the Amish calmly turn their grain stores into meals that nourish entire families. They prove that preparedness doesn't have to be high-tech, just intentional. When supply chains crumble and shelves go empty, the person who knows how to turn raw grain into bread will always eat. But the Amish don't stop at dry goods. They also master the art of storing fresh produce, keeping vegetables crisp and edible for months without electricity. Next, we'll step underground into their timeless secret, the root cellar. 8. Root vegetables, stored in root cellars, potatoes, carrots, and beets. Here's a secret most modern families have forgotten. You don't need a refrigerator to keep food fresh for months. The Amish have proven this for generations with one of their oldest, most reliable systems, the root cellar. Step into one and it feels like entering another world, cool, dark, and quiet. Inside, rows of potatoes, carrots, and beets sit patiently through the winter, still firm, still edible, while snow and frost rage above ground. The genius lies in nature itself. Root cellars use the earth's natural insulation, constant humidity, and stable temperatures to preserve vegetables without electricity. The Amish carefully store their harvest in boxes of sand, straw, or sawdust, keeping the produce dry and protected from rot. With the right setup, potatoes can last 6 months or more, carrots stay crisp until spring, and beets remain rich and sweet long after harvest season. In times of food insecurity or grid failures, which experts warn could become more common during 2025's ongoing supply disruptions, that kind of resilience is priceless. A single cellar can hold enough food to feed a family through an entire winter, all grown and stored locally. No grocery runs, no panic buying, just quiet confidence. What's beautiful is how simple it is. The Amish aren't using gadgets or fancy preservation chemicals. They're using dirt, air, and wisdom. They trust the land, and in return the land sustains them. It's a reminder for all preppers and modern families. Survival doesn't always come from what's high-tech. It comes from knowing how to work with nature, not against it. But fresh vegetables aren't the only thing they preserve underground. The Amish also know how to lock in the sweetness of summer for years to come. 9. Fruit preserves and jams, nature's long-lasting comfort food. There's something almost magical about opening a jar of homemade jam in the dead of winter. The smell of summer strawberries or ripe peaches fills the air, a reminder of sunshine and abundance even when the world outside feels cold and uncertain. That's exactly what the Amish count on. For them, fruit preserves and jams aren't just treats, they're emotional survival food. The Amish follow a time-tested ritual every harvest season: gather the ripest fruits, cook them down slowly with sugar or honey, then seal them tightly in sterilized glass jars. It's part science, part tradition, and entirely practical. When done right, these jars can last for years without refrigeration. The natural sugars and acids act as preservatives, locking out bacteria and sealing in flavor. Each jar is more than food. It's security. In times of scarcity, when store-bought fruit costs a fortune or simply isn't available, these preserves become a precious source of vitamins and calories. They also provide something no can of beans ever could: morale. A spoonful of sweetness in dark times can lift spirits and remind you that not all hope is lost. And here's what most people don't realize: homemade preserves are far healthier and longer lasting than their commercial counterparts. While factory-made jams rely on artificial stabilizers, the Amish rely on patience, precision, and natural balance. It's slow living, but it's strong living. In a world facing rising inflation and looming food shortages in 2025, jars of preserved fruit might just be one of the smartest and most comforting things to have in your prepper pantry. Because survival isn't only about calories. It's about holding on to the small joys that keep you human. But sweetness alone won't sustain you forever. Next, let's look at the golden elixir the Amish swear by for both health and preservation. 10. Honey, the eternal food. If there's one food the Amish treat almost like treasure, it's honey. Golden, thick, and pure. It's one of the few foods on Earth that never expires. Archaeologists have even found jars of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs, still perfectly edible after thousands of years. The Amish have known this secret all along. In a world racing toward another possible food shortage in 2025, honey is more than a sweetener, it's survival gold. Amish families keep bees not just for income, but for independence. Each hive produces gallons of honey, and once sealed properly, it can last indefinitely without refrigeration. There's no processing, no chemicals, no hidden ingredients, just nature's perfect preservation system. When stored in glass jars and kept away from moisture, honey can outlast nearly everything else in your pantry. And even if it crystallizes over time, a little warm water brings it right back to life. But its value goes far beyond taste. Honey is antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, and energy dense, ideal for first aid use or a quick calorie boost when food is scarce. The Amish also use it for coughs, wounds, and even sore throats, trusting it more than modern over-the-counter medicines. It's their natural pharmacy in a jar. Think about that for a moment. While grocery store shelves grow emptier and processed sugars spike in price, those with a few jars of pure honey are sitting on something more valuable than gold. It's not just food, it's healing, fuel, and comfort all in one. The Amish know that true preparedness isn't about hoarding, it's about harmony, working with nature to create self-reliance that lasts generations. But honey is only part of the equation. The Amish also know how to store energy-packed seeds and nuts that keep their pantries rich in fats and protein. 11. Whole seeds and nuts, nature's powerhouse of survival energy. When most people think of long-term food storage, they picture grains, canned goods, or powdered milk, but the Amish understand something deeper. Survival isn't just about calories, it's about nutrients that keep you strong. That's where whole seeds and nuts come in. These tiny powerhouses are packed with protein, healthy fats, and minerals, the kind of energy your body craves when food options are limited. In Amish communities, nuts and seeds aren't just snacks, they're staples. Families collect in dry walnuts, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, and even flax. Each variety has its own role. Walnuts provide omega-rich fats for brain and heart health. Sunflower and pumpkin seeds deliver protein and iron. Flax gives fiber and essential oils. The key to their preservation is simple but effective. Keep them cool, dry, and sealed from air. The Amish store them in airtight jars, metal tins, or even buried crocks to protect from moisture and pests. Done right, many nuts and seeds stay fresh for up to 2 years, far longer than most store-bought items that rely on preservatives. In a 2025 world where grocery prices keep climbing and power grids grow unstable, these small packages of nutrition become priceless. You can roast them, grind them into nut butter, or press them for oils, meaning they're both versatile and vital. What's truly inspiring is the mindset behind it. The Amish don't wait for crisis, they plan for seasons. They know that energy is life. And seeds are nature's batteries. So while most people overlook these small essentials, the Amish quietly secure one of the smartest, most nutrient-dense foods on Earth. And speaking of smart preservation, the Amish have another trick up their sleeve. 12. Dehydrated fruits and vegetables. Lightweight, long-lasting, and life-saving. Here's a thought. What if you could take a whole harvest and shrink it into something that fits inside a few jars, but still lasts for years? That's exactly what the Amish do through dehydration. While most people rush to freeze or refrigerate their produce, the Amish rely on the simplest, most effective preservation method known to man, removing moisture to make food last. When fruits and vegetables are dehydrated, 90% of their water content disappears, and with it, most of the bacteria and mold that cause spoilage. The Amish dry everything from apples, corn, and tomatoes to beans, onions, and even peppers. Some use modern dehydrators powered by off-grid systems, but many still dry food the traditional way, using warm air, wood stoves, or the open sun. It's slow, it's patient, and it works. Once dried, these foods become incredibly lightweight and easy to store. Packed in airtight containers or Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, they can last up to 25 years. Yes, decades, without refrigeration. And when you need them, just add water, and they spring back to life full of flavor and nutrients. In an emergency or food shortage, that's a game changer. Imagine being able to cook soups, stews, or snacks using food that's been sitting safely on your shelf for years. No fridge, no freezer, no problem. The Amish figured out long ago that the secret to long-term survival isn't fancy technology, it's simplicity. Dehydrated foods are the backbone of a truly sustainable prepper pantry. They're proof that you can preserve abundance even in uncertain times. But while dried fruits and vegetables give you nutrition and variety, there's one ingredient the Amish never overlook, the most basic and vital mineral for life itself. 13. Salt, the timeless keeper of food and survival. If there's one ingredient that has shaped human civilization, it's salt. Wars have been fought over it, empires built on it, and without it, no food preservation method truly lasts. The Amish know this well. For them, salt isn't just a seasoning, it's a lifeline. It keeps food from spoiling, restores electrolytes, and preserves meats, vegetables, and even dairy for long winters when nothing grows. The Amish still practice traditional salting methods, curing meats, fermenting vegetables, and brining cheeses the old-fashioned way. When properly applied, salt draws out moisture, the main cause of bacterial growth. The result? Food that can sit for months, sometimes years, without refrigeration. In fact, salted and smoked meats were the backbone of Amish pantries long before modern canning took hold. But salt's value goes far beyond food. In a grid-down world, it's one of the most tradable commodities you can have. It's lightweight, inexpensive now, but priceless in scarcity. A single bag of rock salt or sea salt could mean preserved food, clean wounds, or even safe drinking water through saline purification. And here's the part most people overlook: not all salt is created equal. The Amish prefer natural, mineral-rich salts like pink Himalayan or sea salt, which not only store indefinitely, but also provide trace minerals missing from processed diets. Unlike refined table salt, these varieties don't clump or degrade over time, meaning they're as close to eternal as food gets. In times of plenty, salt might seem ordinary, but when supply chains falter or grocery shelves go empty, it becomes gold in crystalline form. The Amish understood this centuries ago, that a pinch of salt can mean the difference between feast and famine. Next, we'll explore another forgotten staple: vinegar, the Amish secret to flavor, preservation, and natural cleaning. 14. Eggs, preserved in lime, water glass, the Amish secret to year-round freshness. Here's a question most people never think about. How do you keep eggs fresh without a refrigerator? The Amish have known the answer for generations. Their secret? A preservation method that's almost magical in its simplicity, storing eggs in hydrated lime or water glass, also known as sodium silicate. Here's how it works. Fresh, unwashed eggs, straight from the hen, are carefully placed in a solution of water and lime or water glass. This mixture seals the eggshell's tiny pores, locking out air and bacteria, while keeping the natural moisture sealed inside. The result? Eggs that stay fresh and perfectly edible for up to a year, even without cold storage. For Amish families who rely on their own flocks, this isn't just a trick, it's survival science. During harsh winters when hens lay less or not at all, these preserved eggs become a silent backbone of the pantry. They're ready whenever needed, fast for baking, frying, or simply providing protein when other foods run low. What's truly amazing is that this method costs next to nothing. A bit of lime or water glass, a clean crock or jar, and you've got one of the most reliable long-term food storage systems ever devised. No electricity required. And while most modern households toss out eggs after a few weeks, the Amish quietly enjoy their fresh eggs months later. In a world where supply chains falter and grocery prices keep climbing, this old world method feels like a superpower, one that every prepper should learn. Because when the store shelves are empty, the simplest traditions can mean the difference between scarcity and self-reliance. 15. Spices, dried herbs, and whole spices, the flavor keepers of Amish survival. Here's something most people forget when building a survival pantry. Flavor matters. You can have all the beans, rice, and grains in the world, but without spice, survival food can quickly turn into a morale killer. The Amish understand this deeply. For them, spices and herbs aren't just flavor, they're preservation, health, and comfort all in one. In every Amish kitchen, you'll find glass jars filled with cinnamon sticks, cloves, mustard seeds, dill, peppercorns, and dried herbs like thyme or sage. These aren't just for cooking, they're vital for pickling, preserving fruits, curing meats, and even creating natural remedies. For centuries, these whole spices have been the invisible backbone of Amish food culture, keeping both flavor and health intact through the hardest winters. The beauty of whole spices is their longevity. Unlike ground or powdered spices, which lose their strength within months, whole spices can last 4 to 5 years or more when stored in airtight containers away from sunlight. The Amish often dry their own herbs in bunches, hanging them in warm kitchens or smokehouses, a simple, natural method that retains essential oils and potency. But beyond shelf life, there's an emotional power here too. Imagine a cold winter day, food stores running low, and yet your stew still tastes rich with clove, mustard seed, and bay leaf. That small comfort, that sense of normalcy, is what keeps spirits strong in hard times. The Amish have always known that survival isn't just about calories, it's about morale. For preppers, stocking whole spices isn't luxury, it's strategy. They make bland rations edible, preserve food safely, and even offer barter value when supplies run thin. Before we wrap up, let's pull back the curtain on something the Amish have perfected: how they store their food. It's not just about what you stockpile, but how you protect it for the long haul. These timeless techniques can make the difference between food that lasts a few months and food that stays edible for decades. Tip A: layered packaging strategy. The Amish believe in building layers of protection, and modern preppers can take a page from their book. Use a triple seal method. First, store dry goods like grains or beans in clean glass jars, then vacuum seal or bag them inside Mylar pouches with a desiccant or oxygen absorber to block moisture. Each layer adds a barrier against light, air, and pests. When done right, the simple system can extend shelf life from 2 years to over 20 years. Tip B: rotation and use while you store. The Amish never let food just sit. They live from their storage. The rule is simple: first in, first out. Use the oldest items first and replace them with freshly preserved ones from the garden or market. This keeps your food fresh, your storage organized, and your skills sharp. Every jar you open and replace is another step toward true self-reliance. Tip C: hybrid storage zones. Not all foods like the same environment. That's why the Amish divide their stores across root cellars, basements, and pantry shelves. Cool and dark for potatoes, onions, and canned goods, slightly warmer shelves for grains and herbs. The lesson? Never put all your eggs, or beans in one basket. Diversify your storage spaces like you diversify your savings. Surprise hack: pair fermented plus dried foods. After stress or illness, your gut needs balance. By combining fermented foods, like sauerkraut, with dehydrated fruits and veggies, you rebuild healthy gut bacteria, a vital advantage in survival situations. It's proof that with the right system, your food doesn't just last, it works for you. When you look at the Amish, you realize something powerful. They've already mastered what the rest of the world is just beginning to fear. While modern society panics at every whisper of a food shortage 2025, the Amish go about their days calm and prepared, surrounded by shelves of food they grew, harvested, and preserved themselves. No panic buying, no empty grocery aisles, just quiet confidence. Their secret isn't complicated. It's discipline, simplicity, and tradition. They grow what they eat and they preserve what they grow. Every jar of honey, every scoop of beans, every slice of dried apple tells a story of survival, not from fear, but from wisdom passed down for generations. The Amish understand that real preparedness doesn't come from hoarding store-bought cans. It comes from understanding how food works, how nature provides, and how to make that abundance last. In a world facing inflation, supply chain breakdowns, and unpredictable harvests, their lessons are more relevant than ever. Building your own prepper pantry inspired by the Amish way isn't about copying their lifestyle. It's about adopting their mindset, independence, resilience, and faith in self-sufficiency. So as you plan your next grocery run or stockpile, think beyond expiration dates. Think about foods that last decades, not months. Think about skills that make you less dependent, not more. Because when the next crisis comes, and it will, the ones who thrive will be those who prepared when others hesitated. Start small, stay consistent, and build your security one jar at a time. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button, drop a comment with your favorite Amish survival food, and subscribe for more powerful insights on self-sufficiency, prepping, and survival living. Prepare smarter, not later.